Mirage needs a remake. This is not a Mirage remake. This is Mirage remade in the style of Dust 2, also known as Mirust. The creator of Mirust, Henge, has made numerous other maps with the same gimmick of taking the assets from one map and using them for another. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about the interesting dynamic that surfaces when looking at remakes of maps, even when as seemingly superficial as just swapping assets. Just last week I was saying thank you for 1,000 subscribers, and now I am at over 10,000, so that is pretty crazy. To thank you all for 10,000 subscribers, I'd like to do a giveaway of this StatTrak minimal wear Bowie knife freehand. All that you need to do to enter is be subscribed to my channel and leave a comment with your favorite CSGO map not currently playable in competitive. Thanks again for 10,000, the winner will be picked next week Monday. It's strange that with all the maps Henge has made, the one that I find myself fixating on is the one with the most slight setting change, Mirust. Despite the somewhat minimal change in setting, I think that this redesign brings a lot of light onto how reworks work out. At face value, just looking at the layout of this map, it is clearly Mirage. However, if you start playing on it, you will immediately notice some things that have been altered gameplay-wise. Things that we take for granted about Mirage are definitely not set in stone. For example, in Henge's Mirage and Dust 2 style, it's actually not possible to get up onto this box without a boost from another player. This is super interesting since this is the fastest way for CT players to get into Palace. Another thing different is that both of the jumps from mid-window are not possible. And in case you're wondering, the 10's jump isn't possible in the same weird janky way that it is now, but something very similar to it is possible by jumping up onto the lip of this truck. You also can't jump onto this angle in top mid. What's interesting about this isn't the changes as ideas. None of these changes are groundbreaking fundamentally. It's that these changes are almost certainly not intentional in the slightest. This goes to show that even if a remake of a map is done solely to upgrade graphics and nothing else, with how intricate of a game CS is, even just those new graphics can shift gameplay a lot. Smoke lineups are the obvious thing that graphical changes alter. Don't worry too much about these though, I found easy lineups for the usual Mirage smokes on this map in around 5 minutes. The only thing related to utility that can change a lot even in a simple visual upgrade is skyboxes. In this remake, for some reason, the skybox from B apartments to B site is closed off. This changes almost every single fundamental piece of B utility. Don't worry though, I'm certain Valve wouldn't change the skyboxes this drastically in a negative way in an official remake. The other large thing that even a mere visual remake can change about a map is the more specific collision-related things that I mentioned earlier. Even merely swapping a model from one thing to another has drastic impacts on how that position is played, changing how it is to peek around, how it is to hold, utility bouncing off of it differently, and of course, playing on top of one model versus another can be very different. For instance, this model here was taken from the B side of Dust 2 and replaces the boxes here as a way to see into the apartments. This has drastic implications on how the B side of Mirage plays, opening up this powerful angle into Market window, as well as completely changing the way that you peek onto site from Market. This single prop change has large gameplay implications on how the B site plays. This goes to show that map remakes are not easy, and no matter how minor they may seem, even the smallest of changes can have enormous implications. That is something that I think Valve has learned throughout the ages. The CZ75 was on top in mid-2017, and when the nerf came around, everyone thought that it was far too little. However, much time has passed since then, and this seemingly minor weapon change altered the CZ so much that it went from being a dominant force on force buys to being borderline unviable. When we question Valve's choices about nerfing weapons or changing maps, I think it's safe to say that taking updates at face value is never the way to go. I am not someone who loves Valve. They have made a lot of stupid decisions. For instance, only having 4 teams in the Asia-Pacific RMR is a flat-out disgrace. Teams like Tyloo, NKT, Encore, and Wings Up definitely deserve to at least be in the full RMR. However, I think that we should be less critical of them about their handling of, for example, the M4A1S nerf. Lessening its bullet count by 5 might change in theory nothing, but the same was somewhat true about the CZ nerf. We need to apply this philosophy when suggesting changes to maps right now. The meta within CS is very volatile, and when reworking older maps, Valve has shown that in most cases it's better to change things slowly. The remaster of Inferno was a great example of this. They changed things about the map that seem incredibly minor, such as removing the line of pillars and closing off the bedroom. However, these changes ended up being enormous and turned Inferno into the near masterpiece of competition that it is today. The best counter-argument to this is Nuke. Nuke is another one of the golden maps of CS right now, and the reason that it is so good is because of the drastic changes that occurred to make it the way it is. The 2018 Nuke revisions were enormous changes to the map's layout in multiple areas, and crazy enough, for the most part, these changes worked. Nuke is now one of the best maps to watch in professional play, and is also a fun map to queue for on your own. Especially when compared to the unbalanced piece of garbage that the old Nuke was, this was definitely a success. However, these large sweeping changes also have the greatest risk of failure, as they can turn a pretty good map into something that nobody wants to play. For instance, the Cobblestone rework. I'm gonna make a full video about Cobblestone probably sometime soon, but for now I'll just say that I think the bad reception of the Cobble rework has scared Valve away from making large sweeping changes all at once for the foreseeable future. I guess at the end of the day, the idea of this video is that no matter how minor a map or weapon balance update may seem, there are almost always massive, unforeseen consequences caused by whatever is changed. And that volatility really proves to me how balanced and creative a game CS is. In any other game, the metas are built around constant large changes, yet in CS, our game has stayed relatively the same for a very long time. Source 2 is talked about a lot in CS these days due to leaks surrounding its development and planned implementation in CS. A build of CSGO running on Source 2 already exists, and the devs have been experimenting on it for a long time. I still think that we're a while out from its implementation though, and that's a good thing. Despite the argument that Source 2 won't change anything major, the fact is that if even a single model swap has massive ramifications on how a map is played, switching the engine of a game, while not directly apparent, will have enormous ramifications on CS. And for the sake of the game, I don't care if it takes another year for Source 2 to come out. I'd rather the game stay as it is now than to have it become a buggy, unplayable mess. Thank you. This video changed a lot since the initial idea I had for it, but I think it turned out pretty great, so it's whatever. Check out Henge's workshop if you haven't already. He has a ton of great projects and is a super talented mapper. I'm honestly really excited for whatever he has to come. I'm sure if he makes an original map, it'll turn out great. But anyways, if you like this video, be sure to leave a like, and if you want more content like this, subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks.